Even now, some 2 decades later, you can't help but ask, what was she thinking? What was it that drove schoolteacher Mary Kay Letourneau to begin a secret affair with her 12-year-old student, Vili Fualaau? Mary said it was true love, but no one else saw it that way. She was jailed twice and even had 2 children to the underage Vili. But somehow the relationship endured. Remarkably, they're still together today. Here's Matt Doran.
What about these as parents? You've got some good parents here. I'm trying to work out where the looks come from, whether you've got mum's looks or dad's looks, or it's a mixture of both.
I think it's a good mixture of both.
Yeah.
For a brief time, this was the most talked about family on earth. Mary Kay Letourneau made world news when she seduced her 12-year-old student, Vili Fualaau.
A 35-year-old teacher who had sex with a 13-year-old 6th grader sentenced to 18
Mary
days.
Kay Letourneau, the last person you would suspect of being a molester of children.
Vili is now her husband. Then there's their children. Audrey, born while their mother was on trial, and Georgia, born in prison.
Do you kind of understand, what all the furor, all the interest was about at the time?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I understand about it.
It was wrong, and I am sorry.
As we'll see tonight, this is a family still grappling with the truth of what happened more than 2 decades ago. And who was to blame?
I was pursued, and I didn't think about it. I did not think about it. Didn't.
But that's not an excuse for any crime, is it? And I'm not saying
No,
this
it's not.
is. You can't
It's
just go, I
not.
didn't think about it, see you later, sorry.
No.
Was it right? Was it wrong? I don't know.
Here with you, here with me is where I need to be.
What you will have to decide tonight is whether this case amounts to a love story or whether this is something altogether different. One of the most extraordinary, prolonged cases of child abuse we have known.
Mary Kay Letourneau was a much-liked and respected teacher at Shorewood Elementary School. She was married and had 4 children. She first met Vili when he was just 8 years old.
Was that when you were here, his year 2 teacher?
He was one of my students back then. I hardly remember. Of course, I remember his name. And I knew the Fualaau family.
Vili came from a broken home. His dad was married 5 times and he had 17 brothers and sisters.
This would be a test of your memory, Vili. I mean, you would have been 8 or so back then. Do you have any memory of those years?
Like, I remember hiding in the closet. There was a closet in the
Oh, no.
in the classroom. And then me and my friends, we used to be in there hiding in the classroom.
From Mary?
Why don't you say what you were doing hiding in the
We were
closet?
just hiding in the closet.
No, what did you tell me you were doing? What you said to me is like, yeah, we'd hide in the closet and we'd hope you'd walk past so we could look under your skirt. I'm like, what the heck? That's what he told me he remembered. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow, I had no idea.
Things wouldn't get physical, though, for another 4 years when, acting on a dare, 12-year-old Vili made his move during summer school.
I remember she was very pretty. It was more of, showing off to a cousin of mine, like betting, because used to brag about girls and this and that when we were young. Like, oh, that girl likes me. No, she doesn't. And then it was like, oh, yeah, I'll bet you that you can't get what's her name. And so I ended up taking the bet and pursued Mary.
Isn't it incredible? It's just incredible to think that what started as a bit of showing off and following through on a dare or a bet has led to, where we are now.
Mary and I became like really close, and then I kind of forgot about the bet.
When Mary did Vili make it clear to you that he was interested in you physically, sexually, I guess? Can you remember that moment? You must remember that moment.
I just remember, yes, there was one point And I said, put that away. I just meant the idea. There was a moment where he said that he did say he was in love with me. And it scared me, And
That was before anything physical between you both? He said he was in love?
oh yeah. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like weeks, a month.
Mary, when did you first realise, I have feelings for a student?
I feel kind of awkward answering that because it's sort of wanting to connect it to this was a student-teacher relationship.
Did you do anything wrong?
I've always said, it was, should I have run from him? I did at one point say, you have to go.
Mary and Vili tried to keep their relationship secret, but were caught together by police.
The Des Moines police were called by someone saying they thought there was a drunk driver in the parking lot down at the marina.
Lawyer David Gerke was a friend and neighbour of Mary, who would go on to represent her at trial.
And they got there, and Mary pops out of the van, and she's wearing a T-shirt.
Anything else?
They couldn't tell, but just whether it was a T-shirt and panties or a T-shirt, it drew their attention. And then there was a young child sleeping, Vili, so that raised some questions. And Mary, smart and quick, said, no, I'm his teacher, his mom knows he's with me. One of the officers, though, said, this doesn't look right, doesn't smell right. There's something that needs to be investigated further. Maybe it's legit, maybe not.
Did they?
Nobody did.
Imagine it was the reverse. Imagine, say, a male in his mid-30s had been found with a teenage girl in the car.
Oh, yeah, no, you go right to jail.
And Mary was just allowed to drive off.
It was just the opposite. It's Mary. We know her. We love her. The mom said it's okay for the boy to be there, so obviously there's not a crime.
But quickly, rumours began to spread through the tight-knit community. Not only was there an affair between a female teacher and a student, but the teacher was pregnant.
It was front page in the Seattle Times. The rumor was a Highline School District teacher, a female, was impregnated by a 6th grade student. And that really got tongues buzzing. Who could that be? All the teachers are talking and guessing and all of that. And then one Friday night, I got a phone call from my good friend Lee. And he said, David, it's Mary. That's all he had to say, and I knew immediately what he meant, what he was talking about. I couldn't believe it. You don't put it's Mary with that rumor.
But despite the gossip, Mary and Vili continued their illicit relationship. On a number of occasions, she even brought Vili back to her family home.
There were rumours, and perhaps I can try and confirm or deny them with you, about some sex acts on the roof of that house.
I wasn't there, I can't comment.
Was that a wink? I believe that was a wink. That was an attorney wink. That's unprecedented on television. I've never quite seen that before.
I've heard the rumor, but I've never heard specifically from Mary or Vili whether or not that happened.
But much later, in a court deposition, Vili would claim it was true.
We went outside and we went on top of her roof and we had sex.
On the roof?
Yeah.
That's about as brazen as it gets.
Yeah. But remember, it was love. They were in love. That made it okay.
At the time Mary was consummating what she called her real love for Vili, she was also living at home with her husband, Steve, raising their 4 children.
What about your children, Mary? It must have been unimaginably tough on them.
That's why I asked him to go get away from us. go and do your thing.
But that's
I said,
making
"Go
it
and
seem
do
like
your
Vili
thing."
was relentlessly pursuing you. You were the adult.
You can say that.
I am saying that.
I was by age. I was by age.
And
Let's
by
just say
maturity.
that. You maybe.
You were a teacher, Mary. You
Doesn't
can't say I
matter.
was immature.
But you don't know him.
No, but I don't need to know him in this discussion. He's the child.
Who was
I'm
the
talking
boss?
about you.
Who was the boss?
What was his name?
Who was the boss?
What?
Who was the boss back
You know,
then?
there was me pursuing you, but
Who was the boss back then?
this is ridiculous.
No,
This
who
is
was?
ridiculous.
Who was? Just say.
Just say.
Who was the boss?
All I knew was what I knew back then.
But who was the boss?
He was 13, Mary.
But who was the boss?
This is getting weird.
Who was the boss? Who?
I'm pursuing the relationship.
Who was the boss?
Well, I was the pursuer.
Yes.
Mary, even as you're
But-
hearing this now, come on, he was 13.
Doesn't matter.
It absolutely matters.
Oh well, flaw me. Flaw me as an
As an adult?
yes, flaw me. I did the
Yeah.
best I could.
I mean,
Flaw me, character flaw. Ooh.
Art has always been a big part of Vili Fualaau's life. His affair with Mary Kay Letourneau actually began at a summer school art camp in 1996. Mary was 34, Vili 12.
I think we spoke to each other as if in that summer we felt like it was boyfriend, girlfriend. It felt really great. I'm just saying it felt great because we were so close as friends. And then just to not be his teacher in any capacity. And just saying, I don't know what was dramatic going on, but I mean, inside of us, probably, yeah. When we realized, I don't know, you called me your girlfriend.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
A few months into their secret affair, Mary fell pregnant to Vili. But she was still married and living with her husband, Steve Letourneau, and their 4 children. He suspected she'd been unfaithful. Then he discovered dozens of notes and letters that confirmed his wife was in a sexual relationship with Vili.
She was specific enough for me to know that it involved the boy. And ideas and thoughts she had about him. And just things that were just off the wall, way out there. Things that were definitely adult in nature.
Steve moved out, and soon after, a relative of Steve's reported Mary's affair with Vili to her school district. In March 1997, she was arrested and charged with child rape. To this day, Mary claims she had no idea she was committing a crime.
If someone had told me, if anyone had told me, there is a specific law that says that this is a crime.
I'll say that to your face, Mary. I'll say that to you. I'm not bristling.
Matt? If you had someone on here that knew Mary back then, did Mary know? Would Mary have known?
Should Mary have known?
It's not even about should.
Of course it's about should. It's exactly about should.
I did not know. I have said this over and over again. Had I have known, if anyone knows my personality, just the idea that this would count as a crime.
But it was a crime, and Mary needed a lawyer. She hired her friend and neighbour, David Gerke.
What was Mary's reaction when you first said those words, "You have effectively raped a little boy"?
But we were in love. It's love. I didn't make him do anything. If anything, he was wanting it. He was pushing for it. We were in love. How can it be a crime? And I had to repeat many times and in different ways why it's a crime. She really believed she had committed no crime.
The court hearing made international news.
It's the scandal that shocked the nation.
The tabloids couldn't get enough of it.
And what about the impact on Mary's husband at the time?
I do know that he was very angry and bitter. He was attractive. He was a high school, college athlete. worked hard, and now your beautiful wife is screwing a kid, not you. Can you imagine the ridicule he gets from other people?
In your family home?
The self-doubt that goes through your mind, like, am I not a man? You have to go to a 13-year-old boy?
While today Mary denies any wrongdoing, during her court hearing she did admit to breaking the law.
Your Honor, I did something that I had no right to do, morally or legally. It was wrong, and I am sorry.
Even though Vili had been 12 when the affair began, she reached a deal with prosecutors to get a lesser penalty by pleading guilty to the second-degree rape of a 13-year-old.
I give you my word that it will not happen again. Please. Please help me. Help us all.
2 months after being charged, Mary gave birth to Audrey. When Mary was eventually sentenced to 6 months jail, Audrey was placed in the care of Vili and his mother.
What she did was wrong.
Legally, yeah, it was wrong.
Morally?
Morally, I think maybe we should have waited.
You didn't have the maturity to make a decision like that.
No, I would say no.
There was only one of the parties that could stand back at a distance from a bird's eye view and say, hang on, what am I doing here?
I think about that kind of stuff a lot.
Even now?
Even now, because I'm 35 now. So I think about it, you know, like, could I have ever done that? Could I have ever been with a girl that's 13 years old right now? And I just can't see myself doing it.
Despite her conviction, imprisonment and the public condemnation, Mary's relationship with Vili was far from over. She was released from prison after 3 months on strict parole conditions forbidding any contact with Vili. But again, she defied the law.
How soon after getting out of prison do you think she was back with him?
Immediately.
How was she caught?
She was sitting in a car. They had been to a movie. They were sitting outside making out. The windows were steamy, and a Seattle police officer drove by and saw the steamy windows. So he pulled behind him, turned the spotlight on, and Vili started to leave. They said, halt, and went up to Mary. Mary gave a fake name at first. Unfortunately for Mary, everybody in town knew who Mary Letourneau was by sight.
Mary was arrested on the spot and hauled back to court to face the same judge who had ordered her to have no contact with Vili.
Within weeks of your release from jail, you purposely violated the conditions of your sentence.
Mary was sentenced to a maximum 7.5 years in prison. To make things even worse, she was pregnant again. Mary and Vili's second child, Georgia, would be born in jail.
Do you think you were wrongly imprisoned?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because you don't know our story, but we do. We do.
You should never have gone to jail?
If you knew us, and if you knew the intimacies, which guess what, are nobody's business now.
I've never heard you say that before. That
Which part?
You shouldn't have gone to prison.
I did the best that I felt at the time, the decision that I made. And I tried to take the guilty plea back when I realized I was tricked and coerced into it. It's just absurd to think that 13-year-olds are not having sex and they're not pursuing it in a very deliberate, knowing way. It's absurd.
Not a lot of them are having sex with 34-year-olds.
No, but are they having sex?
It's not relevant.
It is absolutely relevant. Are they having sex?
I don't see it as being
Are they having
relevant.
sex? Are they having sex?
I'm certain that they are, but how is
Okay.
that relevant to this case?
They're not children.
So should we rip up the laws and say it's a free-for-all, 13-year-olds with whoever they like?
No. Because there are cases, and it's called strict liability, there are cases where there could be abuse. There could be. So you have to have a law that acts as a deterrent, because there are people who might pursue and abuse a situation.
It looks mighty fine. And now I'm gonna get me.
Mary Kay Letourneau and Vili Fualaau have navigated more troubled waters than most.
Whoa.
But they're still together. Mary gave Vili a runabout for his recent 35th birthday. She is now 56.
I love him more today than I did when I was in love. I hope everybody in marriage gets there.
Back at the time, at its inception, before this had evolved into something like love, wasn't this just a physical relationship between a woman and a little boy?
Well, you shouldn't say a little boy.
He was 13.
I know, but you shouldn't say a little boy.
Well, a teenage boy.
Well, you know, some people are incarcerated in this state at age 13, and they're treated as an adult.
Mary was an adult, a 34-year-old teacher when she first began her affair with 12-year-old Vili.
These violations are profoundly disturbing.
In a plea deal, she admitted raping a 13-year-old and was sentenced to 7.5 years in jail. While in prison, she secretly sent Vili love letters, and the pair had an arrangement allowing Vili to have girlfriends.
I actually dated while she was in there. I wanted to live my life. I mean, there was no contact.
Is that hard to hear, Mary?
Oh, that he dated?
Oh,
no.
We had an agreement.
I didn't even...
What was the agreement?
We did?
Yeah. You were like, go.
Oh, yeah, I knew. He needed to.
So we had this agreement that she was going to be away for a long time, and I was going to be, not to wait, to just do whatever. Whatever's meant to be is going to be.
It was kind of your youth.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard was that the letter was sent that for every person you're with, you would take an inch off Vili's appendage.
Oh, no. That's just a rumor.
Is that a rumor, Vili?
And it was a joke.
Let me ask Vili if that's a rumor. Is that a rumor?
It was a joke in a letter that you wrote.
It was a joke.
That's a very frightening joke, let me say, as a man. That is a very frightening joke.
I know.
While Mary was in jail, Vili and his mother, Suna, raised their two daughters, Audrey and Georgia.
I had no idea what I was doing. It's kind of like you just, if you don't know how to swim, You say, what is that analogy? Swim or you drown? Yeah.
Did it feel to you at times like you might drown, like you were drowning?
Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, there's been plenty of times where I felt like just letting go and just going. Yeah.
Vili kept going for the sake of his children.
And you see the dinosaurs behind him.
Oh.
When Mary was released from prison, the couple were determined to live together as a family.
What's timeless? How do you use it?
And now it was legal because Vili was 21.
Without sound.
You have to record the entire
You have to hold it there.
Audrey is now 21 and Georgia 19.
Do you kind of understand, what all the furor, all the interest was about at the time?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I understand about it. Just like how it was surprising to people, but
Does it feel any different to you guys? I mean, you seem a loving, normal family.
Well, yeah, it isn't feeling different just because it's not really brought to our attention or just because we grew up with it, so we're adapted to it.
Yeah. Does he feel like a young dad to you, or is he's just dad?
No, it definitely feels like young dad now that I'm like at that like adult age to where I'm like, I can go to the bar.
I know, we don't like to even imagine it because she did just turn 21 and it was like, oh my, one time.
I mean, that's like the only legal thing I can think of in my head. Oh, I'm 21. That means I can do this, but it's like a friend dad. Friend dad.
Like a friend dad. That's the perfect endorsement, Vili.
In 2005, Mary and Vili were married.
So many other people in your situation might have said, this is too hard, I'm going to walk away. You stayed the course.
Yeah. Well, I wanted both of my kids to have both parents under the same roof, something I've never had. So I did it for them, so.
There you go, girl, get
There's one.
Get it. The first sand dollar of the day.
Georgia was 7 and Audrey was 8 when Mary was released from prison. She admits she was a strict mum.
All right, look around. Where there's one, there may be others.
What were you strict about?
I was strict about
bras.
Push-up bras?
She literally cut the padding out of my bra once.
Mum, how dare you?
No, because it's unnecessary and it's unnatural and on so many levels.
Okay.
Just leave it at that.
And there was one piece of advice that Mary regularly shared with her girls.
I did say it every morning when they left. I'll probably cry right now. It's like, I love you, now go and do the right thing. And it's like...
It still makes you emotional even now to think about that.
Yeah, I love you, now go and do the right thing. It's like, what else matters?
Did you do the right thing?
You know what? I'm not going to continue with you trying to have me answer that question. I told you I did my best every single day, and I lived my life that way, and I did. And in that situation, it doesn't even matter.
What matters now is that Mary is doing her best to be a good mother, not only to Audrey and Georgia, but to her other 4 children with whom she has a strained relationship. She's also living her life on the right side of the law, practicing as a legal clerk in the same courthouse where she famously appeared more than 2 decades ago.
It's a different Mary, one, because I was very pregnant at the...
There's that.
So, just saying, yeah, it's a different Mary. And it was 21 years ago this month. So, that's a long time.
Vili once dreamed of becoming a professional artist. Those ambitions overtaken by the responsibilities of being a father while he was still a child. These days, he works as a builder's labourer. On a worksite away from Mary, he admitted there are problems with their marriage.
You filed for separation. You toyed with that. Have you ever thought about actually saying this is too hard, I need to call it quits?
I have.
Is it something you still think about?
Every now and then. I don't want to talk about that.
As a 35-year-old man now, to look back at your 13-year-old self and to give him advice as a man, what would you say?
Don't do it.
Really?
I don't know. I can't regret after my 2 daughters and the entire life that I've already lived. I've learned that regretful is actually a bad thing, to regret anything. Everything that's already happened was already meant to be. It's my journey through life, so I got to live it out.
And that journey with Mary has just entered a new phase.
And that's the essence. What?
The children have moved out and for the first time, they are empty nesters.
Are you still in love?
I'll say yes. Whew. No, I think that marriage is there's a labor. I would say anyone that's married will know there's a labor of love. That term is there for a reason. So in love I'm pretty,
I would say there's all, sorry, cutting you off. I've seen marriages where they make it work. They might have fallen out of love somewhere in the relationship, but they somehow just make it work.
What does the future look like for the both of you? Where does the story of Mary and Vili end?
that Mary does her best every single day. And that's how the story ends.
Yeah.
And for Vili?
I'll go with that.
It's a beautiful day.